and hoping I'm always there. I wander everywhere.
I'm here with my good friend Steve Carter, and Steve, you actually just look at me like we're having a conversation.
Okay.
He's like the people out there are enjoying the conversation. This Friday we have our Beatles Abbey Road show that we're doing, which unfortunately you're not on the show. But
I'll be thinking about
you know
it.
what? I wish you were on the show because your voice is just awesome for it.
I'll do the next one.
Would you?
Sure.
Please?
I love
Okay.
Beatles songs.
I'd ask him to sit in, but he's going to be at in New Mexico, right?
Up in the mountains in the cabin, some little folk event.
Maybe we'll play a Beatles tune up there. Play something from Abbey Road.
Well, it's Tony.
On
It's
Friday.
Django.
Is it?
Doing
Oh, it's
Django
Tony
right.
Earl?
Tony
Earl?
Earl, yeah.
Oh, I love this stuff. Man, we got to do some. We should do a couple of Django tunes with the House of Will show.
Yeah, I know.
So we just did a show last night, a 1 hour private party at House of Will. So Steve came over to pick up his check, and he's now paid and good. And now I wanted to ask him the question, and I'm going to ask myself the question too. What do you like about the Beatles? It's a very open-ended question. And for me, many things come up if you ask that question.
Sure.
The first thing, I was talking to Erin, who's holding the camera. Hey, Erin. About what she liked about the Beatles, and she'll be coming on this week, so you get to see our new intern, Erin. And Amanda will also be saying something too, right? But what I came up with, the first thing was the lyric from Abbey Road that ends the album. You know, the love you take will be equal to the love you make. It's just such a poignant, beautiful, moving,
It's deep.
emotional, but simple statement about life. And, you know, we're all trying to figure out how to live this life. It's a lifelong process. And that is just a nice reminder. It kind of calms my spirit when I hear that last phrase. Because really life is, for me, is really about love. You know, love and work. But even work can be about love. And it can get so confusing as like, why am I here? You know, what am I? And times we can worry and worry. Are we giving enough? Are we giving enough? But that statement, I want to believe. I would even ask you, do you believe that in the end, or is there an end? You know, of course.
Or do you reboot?
Or do you reboot? Yeah, exactly.
Who knows?
So I mean,
I think that they obviously were the first band, pop band. I mean, Dylan and some of the folk guys were a little bit self-reflective.
yeah.
But the Beatles were the first band to bring any kind of thought about life, you know, way before Bob Marley, people who made a whole career out of it.
Oh yeah.
But they were like the first people who weren't just singing. I mean, they started out, I Want to Hold Your Hand, but they got deeper and deeper as
As
the
they went
60s
forward.
and 70s. You know, then
Right.
everybody was doing it, but the Beatles were doing it first. And they pushed everything in the recording studio, too.
Right.
They changed recording dramatically.
Yeah, well, they just happened to come into existence at this epicenter, of course, in America. I mean, you know, of course, there's the saying that history just repeats itself. So the reason why the 60s, one of the reasons, is because we had mass media, we had technology to take those ideas and
Spread them
out. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there was great ideas going back 1,000 years. These same ideas are just being recycled. The ideas of the 60s and, you know, loving everyone and they came, but as far as an American history, they were just at the right point. The thing that I loved about it, another thing that I love about it is that they, in a time of music that, you know, coming out of the 50s, you know, the pop songs, they were able to do just so many things creatively. And like you said, it gradually got more and more intense as they went on because they had the freedom.
And the
And
equipment
still,
was getting
and
new.
equipment.
New equipment would come, or they would invent new equipment.
True.
Or new styles
To realize.
of recording their stuff. Before their records, the bass was never turned up. Now it's a standard.
That's
The
true.
bass is kind of too
Yeah,
loud
right.
for the band.
Well, that's why. But my thing I was
Yeah.
going to say is that they were incredibly popular, and yet they could be incredibly diverse. Now, with their creativity and their musical styles, they could do anything. Was fodder for a song, and as they went on and on. I mean, you listen to a record, it wasn't just like one style through the whole record. And the cool thing was that time of history, that was really popular to do that. And even through the early to the mid 70s, the bands that pushed the envelope creatively. Nowadays, and I like to use the Beatles as an example. Like for me, they're a shining example for creativity. Not like if I were to say to an artist, don't try to be like the Beatles, but try to be like their approach to music. And it's like when I hear a lot of artists nowadays, they just sound like they're doing a lot of the same thing, and they're not reaching out. But I don't blame them because they're trying to achieve something in their career. And nowadays, what seems to be, if you want to make it in, you have to stick close to a style. But
I really changed and evolved.
Right. And my model for starting Strings Attached was to bring that excitement of all these different styles and possibilities of different styles back into working with singer-songwriters. So when I started Strings Attached, working with Eliza and Jimmy LaFave, kind of like George Martin, I was going to their music and bringing all these different flavors to it. And people got it in the early days of Strings Attached in 2001 when we started. And so the Beatles are really my #1 inspiration for bringing these multiple flavors to the music, to songs, to pop, that's it, to popular music.
Yeah.
And nowadays, when I turn the radio on, I mean, it all
just
sounds the same. I hate to say it, but
it's product.
You know, so that's, I mean, for me, that's what we're going to try to bring alive in this performance.
The last real creative
Friday.
jump, I think, would have been like punk rock and new wave. Was the last real creative jump.
How? I mean, real quick, and like, how did punk?
Well, I'm just saying it was different,
right?
And it was a bunch of different.
It was radical, right?
Styles, and they were all trying something new. That and new wave.
And
after that, it just kind of
like the Talking Heads
back in on itself.
Would be a good example of that.
Elvis Costello. I mean, you know, these guys were doing things. Even the Sex Pistols or the Ramones were doing it in a way that hadn't been done before.
And I want to believe that this could come back. That popular music could again have mass appeal and have this amazing diversity of sound and lyric too.
Yeah,
I mean, the Beatles were like, they had lyrics that were just you use the words their sensual ability, not necessarily for like poetry. Like in other words, it wasn't to express an idea. They were like nonsense lyrics, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but then they also had songs that were poetic. So same time. And now Caramel's back.
We'll pause for a second.
We're talking about the Beatles.
Oh, hey man.
Yeah, we'll pause.
I'm always there. I wander everywhere.
You know the only guy. You know the only guy that well, not the only guy, but the one guy that comes to mind that comes close to that is what's his name? Wainwright, Loudon Wainwright.
Oh yeah.
His son. Wainwright the third. He actually writes harmonically and melodically interesting and challenging stuff.
I think they got a lot of it from Roy Orbison.